I'd say there's three key markets that, in terms of, if we think about policy, are really pushing energy storage to a new level of growth. And the three key ones that I would highlight would be, firstly, the US, secondly, China, and thirdly, India. So we start off with the US. We've seen 11 states introduce procurement targets for energy storage, meaning that in around 2033 and beyond, they have a set level of gigawatt hour capacity that they have to reach. And that's really pushed a lot of states to have to introduce a lot of ESS into their networks. Additionally, we've also seen around 8 other states introduce regulatory targets, so trying to ease the pace at which ESS can be introduced into the grid, which has been really helpful. The second market is China. The difference between China and the US, which is really interesting, is that China's approach to policy is to require that renewable energy projects have a certain amount of batteries introduced alongside to support those projects. So for every 10 megawatts of solar, we're seeing 10 to 15% of that project having to have an energy storage alongside. So if every province is trying to do that, that's really seeing a huge growth in ESS. And the last market I would highlight is India. There's a huge amount of policy being rolled out there by a lot of different actors. The country is aiming for 450 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030. And that's really emphasizing the need for energy storage. So they're also forecasting by 2030 around 108 gigawatts for energy storage in the market. So a lot to watch out for there, and a really great market for opportunities in the industry. So this is the big question. We've seen a real sluggishness in the market that's been having exponential growth for the last couple of years. And I think that we have seen the bottom in the terms of the end of the real slowness in demand. If we look at results from April and May, we've seen demand pick up. April, for example, it's reached 60% growth year on year, which is a notable level of growth. I think what people have to appreciate with China is that it's not that demand is notably incredibly slow, it's that compared to previous years where growth has been above 100%, we're going to see the market rise a lot slower than it has on record. So I think people need to adjust their kind of expectations in terms of EV sales, given that they're now so common in the market. I think in terms of our view and when it's going to pick up, maybe even quicker than it is right now, I think the second half of the year, when we're going to see some of the macroeconomic fundamentals ease, so maybe a growth in consumer confidence ratings, GDP growth starting to pick up a bit more, and some of the other macroeconomic issues that we're seeing in terms of PMI ratings and the like, starting to also recover towards the end of the year, which will bolster kind of the general attitudes towards spending. So we're looking out for the second half of the year for China. I think sodium-ion batteries are incredibly exciting, and there's so much news coming out on a daily basis about different battery manufacturers with sodium-ion. So to give you our general forecast, we're expecting sodium-ion to take 9% of the passenger EV market by 2033. We think the first year that it's going to start taking some market share is going to be around 2025, when it's going to reach 1%. I think something that I would add with sodium-ion is that there's a lot of general excitement about the chemistry, but it's going to take a long time for any chemistry to start really taking away market share from lithium-ion batteries, which are so trusted and so tried and tested. So I think that once sodium-ion can prove its efficiency and its comparability with the likes of LFP and NCM, then we'll see more OEMs starting to take it up. But the real issue is that given its comparable energy density with LFP and its greater weight because of the amount of cells that you're going to need to reach the same energy density, those present kind of problems in terms of the applicability of sodium-ion. So the other thing we need to think about is, what vehicles can we use it in? And there's a limited amount of vehicles that can carry that weight or have that lower energy density. So I think those would be some of the restrictions I would highlight. I think the most exciting location where sodium-ion will take market share from lithium-ion batteries will be China. This is mostly because Chinese battery manufacturers are very much at the forefront and the cutting edge of sodium-ion battery manufacturing. So we saw CATL announce that their sodium-ion batteries could reach even 140 to 160 watts per kilogram. And that's a really competitive level of energy density, which is almost comparable with an LFP cell. So I think if any of the markets that I could highlight where they would start to take market share would most likely be in China, where there's also a proclivity and a general assumption that there's a comfort with lower energy density cells, because a lot of the cars that do really, really well have lower ranges. So I think that on that basis, they would do really well in that market.